NASCAR has finally seen enough of Shane Van Gisbergen's road course advantage. 8 Cup wins, 1 unusual driving technique, and rivals who still cannot copy it. Now the question is whether NASCAR can actually take that advantage away from SVG, because what cameras revealed inside his Chevrolet has the entire garage talking. Let's climb into the cockpit of that number 97 Chevrolet, because this is where the story lives. Van Gisbergen brakes with his right foot. He presses the brake pedal with the toe and the ball of that foot, then rolls the outside edge of that same foot across to blip the throttle, matching engine speed to the gearbox as he works down through the ratios. His left foot is busy on the clutch, feathering it, modulating it, keeping the drivetrain calm while the car dives toward an apex at 120 miles an hour. That is heel and toe, and in Australian supercars, it is completely unremarkable. Almost everybody in that paddock does it. Drop it into the modern NASCAR Cup Series, and it looks like witchcraft. Trackhouse Racing fitted a camera into that footwell for his very first Cup start at the Chicago Street Course back in 2023. And the sport has been obsessed ever since. When the broadcast cut to those pedals during the race at Circuit of the Americas, Cup driver Corey LaJoie joked publicly that he would happily pay a subscription just to watch the footwork. Racers watching another racer's feet. That is genuinely where we are. So why is an entire American field braking with the wrong foot on a road course? Because of a decision made in 1986 at a Californian circuit called Riverside. A crew chief named Gary Nelson bolted a 4-speed Jericho transmission into Jeff Bodine's Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet, completely legal under the rulebook. Genuinely clever engineering, and it reshaped stock car racing permanently. The Jericho ran a dog box, non-synchronous design, which meant an oval racer could simply bash his way down through the gears without treating the clutch pedal like a musical instrument. Before that gearbox landed, every Cup driver who wanted to be competitive on a road course had to heel and toe, and the ones who mastered it, drivers like Ricky Rudd, went straight to the front. Rudd, a 23-time race winner and a NASCAR Hall of Famer, said on radio coverage at Riverside the following season that he wished the thing had never been invented because it closed the competition right up on the road courses. His reasoning was blunt. Suddenly, any oval racer could climb aboard and go pretty decently. The Jericho became standard equipment. Its descendants followed. And heel and toe quietly stopped being a required skill in the world's biggest stock car series. The next-gen car carries a 5-speed sequential transaxle today, and it still doesn't need the clutch on downshifts. 4 decades of not needing something. That is precisely how a craft disappears. Now the obvious follow-up. Does any of this actually make the car go faster, or is it lovely theater for the cameras? Ask his own teammate. Connor Zilisch spent the opening stint at Watkins Glen glued to the rear bumper of that 97. And what he described afterwards is the whole ballgame. He said you never see Van Gisbergen slipping the tires. Out of turn 6 and into turn 7, the rest of the field is pinning the throttle wide open, and Van Gisbergen isn't even getting there. Read that again, because it sounds backwards. He is using less throttle and going quicker, because he isn't overworking the rear tires, and a tire that isn't sliding is a tire that still has grip left in it on lap 40. Dale Earnhardt Jr. broke the mechanics of it down on his podcast. When Van Gisbergen feels engine braking dragging on those rear tires, or the first shiver of wheel hop through the chassis, he modulates that clutch slightly to soften the load traveling through the drivetrain. It settles the car. It helps the thing rotate. And Earnhardt's verdict on whether a Cup regular could realistically learn it now was brutally simple. This is something you need to have been doing from the day you first climbed into a race car, which brings us to the part that should genuinely rattle the garage, because they have absolutely tried. NASCAR runs an open book data system called SMT, and every team in that field can pull up Van Gisbergen's telemetry and study it like an exam paper. His brake traces, his throttle traces, his racing lines, all of it laid bare. So copying him ought to be a weekend project. It has not worked out that way. Ross Chastain, his own Trackhouse teammate, sitting in a car with the same steering wheel and the same pedal box, summed it up perfectly after Watkins Glen. He said his feet are simply on the wrong pedals when he tries doing it Van Gisbergen's way. He is 33 years old. He can hold the technique deliberately for a corner or three. Then the next corner arrives and his brain hands control straight back to 20 years of muscle memory. Joey Logano started the Watkins Glen weekend right foot braking and bailed out of it during practice. His Penske teammate Austin Cindric went further, flying to Adelaide to run a supercars wildcard, partly to drill the craft in a car that demands it. These are not back markers filling out an entry list. These are Cup Series champions and race winners crossing the planet to relearn how to operate their own feet. And Denny Hamlin, who was taught to road race right foot braking and was doing exactly that when he won in Mexico City 20 years ago, reckons nobody coming up through the ranks now is going to volunteer to learn it and stick with it. So NASCAR bans it, then. Rewrites the rule, closes the loophole, levels the playing field. And this is where the whole saga turns, because there is nothing there to ban. There is no trick differential hiding in that Chevrolet, no exotic brake system, no clever component sitting in the tech line waiting to be confiscated. He is driving a next-gen car built to the same specification as everything else on that grid, and he is simply better with his feet than they are. You cannot write a rule against a skill, and the delicious irony is that the closest thing to a ban already happened at Riverside in 1986, when a gearbox made the technique optional. That decision didn't kill the advantage. It parked it for 40 years, then let one bloke from Auckland stroll in and pick it straight back up. Van Gisbergen himself refuses to make any sort of meal of it. He told Dale Jr. that people overthink the entire thing, that he only ever did it because supercars handed you a locked differential and so much rear brake that you had to control the rear locking in the braking zone. In a next-gen Cup car, with an open diff and far more front brake bias available, he reckons you technically don't even need to. Which is exactly what a man says when the hardest thing he does feels like breathing. And now the development that should worry every rival heading into the postseason. For 3 seasons, this field had one comfort blanket. He can't do ovals. That blanket is vanishing at an alarming rate. Across 30 oval starts last season, Van Gisbergen averaged a finish of roughly 25th. Through the ovals of this campaign, he has hauled that down toward 20th. And across the first 12 oval races of the year, he improved by more than 8 positions, compared with the same run of tracks 12 months earlier. He banked his first career oval top 5 at Nashville in late May, then backed it up with a 5th at North Wilkesboro in July, leading 49 laps and running an average position of 4th. And listen to what he said afterwards, because this detail changes everything. He said North Wilkesboro felt a bit like a road course, so he right foot braked for half the race and felt completely comfortable doing it. The technique is no longer staying politely in its lane. It is migrating onto the ovals. And right now he is sitting on the chase bubble, holding the 16th and final spot by 50 points over Ryan Preece, with New Hampshire and then the sheer chaos of Daytona left to settle the regular season. So is this a genuine skill crisis in American stock car racing, or is one bloke from Auckland just that ridiculously absurdly good? Honest take from me, it is both, and that combination is exactly what makes it so dangerous for everybody else. 4 decades of forgiving gearboxes let a proper craft rot quietly in the background, and a road racing craftsman walked in and made the whole field look like beginners. Meanwhile, Connor Zilisch, the one driver widely tipped to actually challenge him, has just signed with Hendrick Motorsports for 2028, and Denny Hamlin has said Zilisch believes he can challenge Van Gisbergen without relying on the right foot technique. So I want your call down in the comments. Skill crisis or generational talent? Drop it below, smash that subscribe button, and ring the bell, because that fight is going to shape the next 5 years of this sport.